And good evening, and welcome to the live stream Tuesday night edition of the Tomsic Analysis. Kind of worn out here today. Wow. But I'm going to do these live streams twice a week, so thank you, those of you who are joining me. I did not lock up and put on the chat, so don't chat with me tonight. It's been one of those nights I've been working at 9 different projects. But tonight's podcast topic is the Trump economic plan. Now, I've been doing a lot of Donald Trump, and we're going to continue. I mean, this is a new president. No, he's a almost new president, and he was selected in November 5th. And we have maybe an opportunity here to change the world. I mean, he claims he's going to solve these problems fairly quickly. He's going to solve the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. Now, I'm assuming that's after the inauguration. He pretty much is going to save our economy. And in fact, I hope this time around is better than his first 4 years. Now, I know many of you, and I've been right in my face told that was the best economy they've ever seen in their lives. People that I know, friends, family members, best, no better. Interesting, it was the same exact words they used as Donald Trump used. How does that work in psychology? What does that tell you? Okay? Now, they really had no clue if it was better or worse. I remember back then, and of course what I remember is the mishandling of the pandemic that Donald Trump got himself involved in and really cost a lot of money and some lives. He wasn't really concerned about it. It was just a flu because people in his network, these America Firsters, they didn't believe it was a real pandemic. They didn't believe that there was a virus out there that was dangerous. And we found out by the sheer number of deaths that it was. In fact, my wife was in the hospital and very good shape. And she was in bad shape. She was hit and miss. She was struggling breathing. And they did the things they would do to help her breathe. She survived, and I thank all those doctors and nurses at Canonsburg Hospital for that. But if you listen to other people, there was no issue. I, too, had COVID. I said that on the air, people. I didn't have to hide it. I did, and I survived it. My doctor took good care of me. And my point is that we have a president that really makes bad decisions, has a view of our world, has a view of life much different than you and I do. Now, he grew up rich. He grew up not just rich, but sort of in a rural environment. He was part of the Knights of Malta, his dad was. He is not like you and me. And billionaires in general aren't like you and me anyway, but he's above that category, head and shoulders. So people get mad that I am critical. Now, if it was Kamala Harris, I would be just as critical. But remember, she didn't say that she had the best economy in history, that she's going to fix everything, that she's the smartest, that she's the best, nothing better, nothing's better, biggest, best, better. I'm tired of hearing that, okay? But he's going to make America great again. And he's said this many times, of course, for years. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. But this particular time around, he's got an economic plan. Now, I'm going to go over just a few points and throw in some other things. So please be patient. Stay to the end, please. Okay? Now, back in his first term, a lot of people believed that it was so great because of a few things that happened. Now, we have to set the stage here. He took over after Barack Obama. Barack Obama had 8 years. And this is not giving Barack Obama praise or tearing him apart. This is the facts. Barack Obama was handed an economy that was destroyed by George Bush, the biggest loser this side of Texas. Okay? A warmonger, even though he really didn't even know it because his Vice President Dick Cheney rented him like a mule and used him that way. He got us into wars. He lied about everything. So Obama basically took over this economy that was crashed, the 2008 crash. Remember that? That was really Bush's crash and those before him. So I'm not blaming Barack Obama. Now, many of you want to. Go ahead. If it makes you feel better, you do it. I don't want to hurt your feelings. Okay? At any rate, he inherited 1% inflation. So when he blames Kamala Harris for all the inflation, let's understand what happened. Under his leadership, the pandemic came, was poorly handled, money was spent, and after that, more money was spent. Inflation began, and of course, Joe Biden inherited that, for the most part, the aftermath of that pandemic. And again, I'm not defending Joe Biden either, but everybody seems to think that Joe Biden and everything he did was totally, totally bad and wrong. His economy wasn't that bad. Once you take out inflation, there's not a lot to talk about. I mean, you can, but nothing that sticks out. And remember, inflation was a group task. It was a group effort, okay? The money Trump spent, okay, 8.4 trillion. That didn't all happen in that 4 years. That happened really in a shorter amount of time. And some of that was his tax cut, the 2017 miraculous from God tax cut. So this time around, what's he going to do? Well, tax cuts, tariffs. He also wants to make America affordable again. Didn't say how there. Lower inflation, didn't really say how. Grow the economy. Now, punishing and expelling illegal immigrants, that's big on his list. Cut federal spending. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And of course, he's going to pump more oil, get rid of any type of safety features on the environment, and just go full bore on destroying our environment. And he wants to make America once again the most powerful nation on earth. I've talked a lot about that. I'm not going to get into that today. He still has this fantasy that he's going to be the dictator, the king, the oligarch of the world. And everybody will look up to him and have to either bow to him, respect him, kiss his rear end, or whatever, which many of you people out there that, follow him around, as some kind of demigod, do. Okay? So let's go on here. First of all, I want to get this out of the way. He talked about basically people that get tips for wages, or part of their job, part of their remuneration. That's about 2.5% of the total workforce. So it may have sounded like there was 1 billion people that he was helping with this, no taxes on tips. Not really. Okay? Okay, so let's go back to 2017. Let's take the Wayback Machine, pull it up, hit the button, 2017. His tax cut. Told everybody it was the greatest thing in the world. He could get 4 or 5 and even 6% GDP because of it. He was going to make it. It was going to happen. He told everybody. So the tax cut went out. Now, according to the Tax Policy Center, they found that households whose earnings are in the top 1% received an average tax cut of $61,000. And that'll continue through 2025 because that tax cut, that tax package ends next year. While the bottom 60% households received an average tax cut of $500. Now that's $9.60 a week. 52 weeks. Now, if any of you do go out and get stuff, okay, that $9 doesn't buy you much, even before inflation. So thanks, Donald. I mean, you see where I'm kind of going here. Donald Trump is not for you or me. You think he is because, you see, he's made that psychological connection with you to make you feel like he is. He's a billionaire. He really doesn't care. He's doing things for himself and people he knows, and he wants to dominate. He wants to control, and he loves beating up on the little guy. That's why he goes after illegal immigrants. They're helpless people. He can dominate them, send the military after them. I'm digressing. Now, there were also significant tax cuts for corporations. Okay, there were. And this was another trickle-down idea, inherited from Ronald Reagan, another real winner. However, research by both the Congressional Research Service and the Nonpartisan Bookings Institute found that those gains never really trickled down to the real wage earners at the bottom. What was found that tax cuts totaling $900 billion really went to stock buybacks, remuneration packages, bonuses for the people that run companies, and dividends for the rich. Now, Trump officials said the corporate rate tax cut from 35% to 21% would conservatively boost average income by $4,000. That's a household income. Whew. I'd have remembered that. But economists from Joint Committee on Taxation said the Federal Reserve and the Federal Reserve Board showed that below the 90 percentile range, that's mostly everybody, people below about $114,000 a year, their earnings rose very little, if at any. But the very top did. So tax cuts 2025. See, for tax cuts 2025, he doesn't have a new package. He's just going to renew the old one. But he's going to add to it. Some of the things he's going to add are no taxes on tips. So no taxes on Social Security or overtime pay. Excuse me. And he wants a line item deduction for car loan interest. Now, right off the bat, if he just stayed with continuing the 2017 tax cut package, and he just extended it another 4 years or whatever, that would reduce revenue in the United States till by $4 trillion over the next 10 years. $4 trillion. So we're going to get $4 trillion less in taxes. Now, when he adds these other things and everything else he's putting into this package, it'll be about $8 trillion. Now, how do you think that's going to help Americans who really don't get affected by it, because me and you won't see anything? And in fact, this is how I was told by an expert. Dave, it's not going to seem like you have a tax cut because nothing will change for you. It won't go up, supposedly, but you'll get the same as you did in 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, and through. Okay, so you're not going to feel like you gained anything. Rich people are going to continue to not have to pay taxes. You see, for them, it's always a great day in America because they don't pay taxes, and he's not going to make them pay taxes. Okay? Now, here's the thing. Debt is growing at an exponential rate anyway. Interest rates are higher than they've been in years. That means to service the debt we have, $36 trillion, almost $37 trillion. It'll reach $37 trillion early next year. The interest rates are higher, so the servicing of the debt is much higher, which makes it more difficult to get ahead of the game. You never will. That's the point. And Trump will do the same thing. You see, he's not going to rock the boat when it comes to what he looks like. His fame and fortune, his reputation, he's going to kick that can down the road as far as he can get it. Why? Well, because if he really tried to fix the things that were wrong and try to stop kicking the can down the road, you'd have the collapse that we're all predicting. Because without endless money printing, without lower interest rates, and although interest rates are higher now than they were 10 years ago, they're still not high. Not when you grew up, when I grew up, and there was 18% for or 16% for a mortgage. These are very low. Okay, this is low-hanging fruit for people. Man, if you at 5 or 5.25, 6% house loan shouldn't be a problem, but it is because no one makes enough money. Back in the day, people had decent wages. Inflation, for most part, was under control. So paying a little extra more or a lot extra more for a house wasn't so bad with interest. And it was deductible. So you were in a good position, maybe. Okay? So this will affect, as things deteriorate, this will affect real people in the middle class. Now, for the stock market, there's no real connection between the stock market and Main Street. Many experts will tell you this. This is not a secret. And those of us here, because about 85% of the stocks are held by about 12% of the people. So we're not going to get very far ahead as people like us. You might have a 401k, but the total package, most rich people, the ones at the top own most of the stock. Okay, you got that? Okay, so what else is he going to do? So he has a plan. Excuse me. Nothing like paper sticking together. Now use paper still. He has a plan. It's a foolproof plan. He was implementing it back in his first 4 years. It's called a tariff. Now, a tariff is a tax. It's a tax on a product. It really is a neutral thing because it doesn't care who pays for it. It's just there. Now, for the most part, China makes mostly everything we get. So if you charge them a tariff on their goods, those goods become more expensive. Now, China isn't taking out a loan to pay for the tariff. China's sending them in, and we're stamping the extra. What Trump wants is 10% to start on a product. He wants a universal tariff. Now, a universal tariff is a tariff on everything, not just specific things. Everything. Okay, he also might try to propose a 20% tariff. Now, this tax will fall upon not so much the rich. Most rich people don't actually buy the type of things that we do in the middle class and lower middle class. They don't spend like we do. It's a different world. And of course, they can afford what they do spend money on. Me and you, excuse me, nothing like allergies, worst thing ever. These tariffs will be paid by me and you, okay? We're going to pay. So even though they're going to get revenue to offset some of this extra debt that Donald Trump's creating from his tax cuts, those of us who won't get really any new benefit from those tax cuts are still going to have to pay the tariff. So any hopes of inflation going away is gone. Any hopes of price relief are gone. We get mostly everything, especially in the winter when we don't produce as much fresh food, we're going to pay out the nose. Okay, now, this tariff thing has to actually go through a small process. Commerce Department and looks like the trade representative. And they can submit to Donald Trump what they believe, which he can override and still have a tariff. Now, he can just put a tariff on and say it's an emergency under national security or trade purposes, because someone's trade policies are bad. He can still do this. Whether he will or not, I don't know. I wouldn't doubt that he could or would. But the point is, this is going to be what we'll see in the new year. Okay, so whatever he claimed in his first term, I'm going to go over that a little bit because we can only guess at the second term. Now, he always complained that people just blame him for everything. Everything he did never really happened. And to all those who voted for him, many in the right-wing part of the Republican Party didn't think he really did anything wrong. Well, I hate to tell you this. Anybody that reads what really happened, which is out there, yeah, he's a felon. There's no doubt about it. And over the years, this guy probably might give Al Capone a run for his money. But I digress. Okay, so basically, under Trump, the annual inflation rate was about 2.4% at the end. That's not bad, right? And as I said, it really isn't Trump that did so much great things that it was 2.4%. It was that he inherited a 1% inflation rate. And that went up as he started spending money. Remember, king of debt. Okay, so right now, Biden's inflation rate's about 3.4%, which is still high. Now, again, I can go to shadow stats under Trump and Biden and tell you that it was much higher, but we're not going to even get down that road because it doesn't even matter anymore. Okay, so there was three things, and I want to go down and find it. Okay, Trump entered the White House, inflation barely 1%. There was largely due to a slow recovery from the Great Recession when the financial markets collapsed and millions of people lost their homes to foreclosure. Now, keep in mind, you have to add all this together. See, Trump can make these statements because a lot of people don't put all the events that happened together. He puts, this one big happy world. He was the greatest economy in history, but he won't account for the fact that the 8 years prior were recovery years from the Great Recession, which actually was the Great Recession. And it's still being recovered for right now. We still are recovering for much of that. Okay? He celebrates historic low mortgage rates. And keep in mind, he can do this. He can celebrate low mortgage rates because the economy was weak after the pandemic. So remember, everything collapsed under the pandemic. It brought everything down. So he can go and brag and claim something, but it's a lie. It's not even like, anything short of a lie. He knew this. He knows. If he doesn't know why, he shouldn't be there at all. So the pandemic and the Great Recession, these two things he sort of was put in between. And in many ways it hurt him, but in many ways it helped him because he could lie about stuff and nobody's going to remember. No one's going to understand what happened before that. They're not going to understand that the 2008 financial crisis crippled America and dropped inflation, GDP, everything to the mere minimum. And he just had to come in and sit there and things would eventually go up. And they did. But he also then ran into the pandemic, and that helped him because, again, it did the same thing. It kept all these prices that people look at, inflation, GDP, employment, gas prices, all those remained low. And I will talk about gas prices. Now, they fell below the average of $2 a gallon because no one was driving. No one was allowed to drive. Now, he comes out and he says, I had the lowest gas prices, and Joe Biden, they skyrocketed up. Listen, Joe Biden didn't make a lot of good choices either. He got into this war in Ukraine, Russia. We had the whole thing with Russia that really changed the dynamic on gasoline prices because Russia is now a major supplier around the world. We drained our reserves to keep prices low, and things went up. And of course they stabilized and came down, but never to the low of $2 or $2.25. Why? Because back then demand was low. It's still supply and demand. Any of you that are trying to rewrite economic forecasting, stop. You don't know. It's still supply and demand. And back in 2020 and 21, there was no demand. Prices fell. Was it something he did? Well, unless he wants to take credit for, creating the pandemic, then, although he did screw it up here in the United States, then shut up because you lied. You didn't do anything with gasoline. There were fewer jobs under Trump. By contrast, I'm not going to get into this because both parties lie about jobs. But it goes back to tax cuts. Okay, jobs, just to let you know, Biden basically almost doubled the amount of jobs created under his administration and Trump's. Keep in mind, Trump's administration still had probably a plus 6 million jobs when you kind of factor in the pandemic and the job. Of course, he inherited Obama's economy, which was growing slowly, and people were going back to work after the Great Depression. So again, it's unfair to really match A and B, but the truth is he wasn't real great at job creation either way. He also assured the public that his tax cuts would pay for themselves. The cuts were broad but disproportionately favored corporations and extremely wealthy people. The 2017 tax cuts never fulfilled Trump's promises on deficit reduction. Okay? Trump assured the public in 2017 the economy would grow 3%, 4%, or even 6%. Ultimately, 6%. Okay? That never happened. So when you and I got into a discussion at the agriculture fair here in Washington County. And that's an infamous time because there was some hooligans that attacked the Democratic booth up there. And being a political atheist, I'll be honest with you, I'm glad I am, because I can sit and talk to any of these people. But the Republicans were standoffish, and I had an issue with these Democratic people at the polls. There were people there for a decade, I think. Over a decade, these same people were there. And it looked like to me that, they were trying to explain to some people about economic growth. Of course, the Trumpers said it was the greatest economic growth in history. Again, I feel sorry for all of you who believe that. I do. I feel bad. Not in a mean way, not in a degrading way. But you see, it just shows how fooled, how deceived America really is, how uninformed, lazy. Go down the list of reasons that someone would say things that aren't provable, that can't be backed up by raw data. Now, many of you will hear that and say, well, that's all fake. Most data is fake, but there is still a baseline. There is still a way to judge it. There is still a way, because ultimately both Trump, Obama, and Biden all had the same formulas used, padded or not. When you go back and you do the math, it shows that Donald Trump's GDP was not really much above 2.5 or 2.6%. You might say, well, that's better than 2.3, which is, I think, what Obama's was. Obama was still in the midst of the Great Depression. Trump spent the biggest tax cut in history, because when you put money back into the economy, supposedly, see, in this case, it really never went back into the economy, so the rich people just took theirs and pocketed it. But supposedly, you put money back in with tax cuts, GDP and spending go up. When you have the Federal Reserve continue to print trillions of dollars, asset prices go up. That's how it works. So 2.6%, when he thought it would be 4 is a failure. Now, most people might say, that's not true. That's not true. I felt bad, and I'm going to believe it. I believe it. Believe what you want. And that's the problem. That's why it's so easy to sit here and just kind of make videos on some of these stupid things that are happening and what people believe. Because we want to believe what feels good to us. It's a deception. It's a great deception. Both sides do it. But it's interesting how when somebody believes that they're the only ones that are right now, that's the right-wing people. They're the only ones that have all the answers. They're the right ones. God's on their side. And how do you even argue with that? See, I don't. I can't. I can't win that argument. I've said in other videos, people in America have a way of skirting the truth. They run around it. Or they put the Bible in front of them. It's God. So they don't have to explain anything. Well, God said. Now, when you look at it, and did he really say that? Was he really worried about America? Is he worried about America right now? No, he's worried about the souls of people in America. We tend to confuse that with his protection and thinking that we're going to be the great America that conquers the world, that as the most powerful nation because we're powered by right. We're in the right. And then all the wrong we do, again, we skirt around and we put the Bible in front of it. Well, we have to do it. They're bad. And that's why this whole enemies list, which people are considering what Trump will do about that now, that's why this enemies list is interesting, because that's how we deal with it. They don't agree with us, so we're going after you. You're not behind this shield of this Bible. See, God said we can do this because we're righteous. I mean, that's what it seems to me, because I've talked to people, and that's what they tell me. So if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong, but I don't see anybody that really can tell me factually without just saying it's okay. It's God. We're in the right. They're all wrong. Because what it is the devil, okay, I'm going here. I'm digressing. The devil, he'll give you everything you want. If you want war to end, he can get war to end. If it means you turning away from Jesus Christ, he'll do anything. He'll give you whatever you want. You want new laws against abortion and homosexuality? He's on board. See, Christians think, well, he wants this stuff. See, Christians are like, sometimes they focus on the wrong thing. You see, you can be deceived even though you're given what you think you wanted. But the devil, Satan has a plan. It's an antichrist spirit. It's the spirit to draw people away. So once I get you away from thinking genocide is not wrong, once I get you into hating everybody who's in your country that you don't like, once I get you to hating someone of a different color or different nationality, once I get you to turn on everybody and give you what you want, we want to have a great economy. We want to make more money. We want to drill more. We're going to be America, the powerful one. He'll give you what you want. But in that process, you lose your soul. You lose righteousness. You lose the high ground. And all the time this is all happening, all the time we're demanding for all these new laws and regulations and all these things, as we get away from freedom, as we get our rights taken away, as other people's lives get crushed for our sake, we lose our humanity. We lose the purpose that we were put on here for. And as a Christian, you should know what that is. But we don't, because we have now this protection. We're marching with our war flag. We're marching. We're going to war. Jesus said he didn't come on earth for peace. He came with a sword. You better reread all that. This isn't a holy war. And remember the Crusades, same concept. What happened to the Crusaders? That wasn't good. Don't lose your soul, your high ground, over somebody else's lack of any character, any remorse, any empathy. And go down the list. Don't do it. But you see, it's already been done. We went to the polls and we did it. Yeah. And now it's taunting and we're going to get you and you're done and we're going to change all this. We'll see economically what we change. Having said that, see, Donald Trump also went into some other things that really aren't budget related. Now, the defense budget, he's been all over the board over past. He wanted it at $700 billion back in the day. It's gone up. But he wants a strong defense, so he's not going to be able to cut that, I don't think. But he wants to build an Iron Dome. And this would go well beyond his time as president. This Iron Dome, if none of you, or many of you don't know, it's what they call Israel's missile defense shield. Okay. Now, it was pretty decent defense system back in its day. And today it's now under fire. It's been breached multiple times, and really, the problem with these shields in this type of war is that the more missiles that are sent, you don't have enough interceptors. They cost billions of dollars to produce, millions of dollars to fire. Eventually, these things don't work. Now, he wants to build one here. Now, we've never been attacked. We don't really expect to be attacked. And if someone does, it's not going to be with the missiles that these things would shoot down. It would probably be with the ballistic type of missiles, the ICBMs, the hypersonic missiles that aren't going to be easily tracked or shot down. So to spend billions of dollars on this defense system is, again, hubris. It's showing, trying to show Americans we're going to be tough. I'm here to protect you. This thing will never get built. But it was brought up, and it's on one of his platforms. Okay, what else does he want to do? Domestic deployment of Army, the U.S. Army. U.S. Trump has repeatedly spoken out using the military on domestic soil for a host of law enforcement purposes, including the securing of the southern border, policing civil unrest, and cracking down on crime in cities such as Chicago. Now, if anybody of you understand that military people are not trained in police work, it's a brutal tactic they use when they go and do something. Martial law, they're breaking down doors, they're grabbing people, they're not actually worried about your civil rights. And obviously, neither is Donald Trump. Those of you that are so afraid to get out of your house because someone's going to attack you, those of you who live in Chicago, if it's, if you're that afraid, move out of Chicago. If you're that afraid, maybe get involved with your local groups to actually work with the government, work with your local police, work with your local mayor to crack it down from there. That's their job. If they can't do it, and you're going to say, well, the mayor's not doing it, then you got to vote them out. I've not seen any big move to get rid of anybody from any city that is in trouble with law enforcement, is in trouble with gang violence. Do something, because once you get the military involved, your freedom's gone. In fact, this actually breaches a long-standing law known as posse comitatus. It prohibits federal troops from participating in civilian law enforcement roles. Now, let me explain why this doesn't matter to Donald Trump, because he's a dictator. There I go. I said it. He wants to be anyway. You don't believe me. And many of you don't care, because you see you'll get what you want, except when it's you. Imagine you're for somebody. You go to a city thinking it's safe and the military's there fighting, and you happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. They grab you. They're not going to ask you if you were just an innocent bystander. You're being detained. You may go to a black site. You may never be seen again because your rights are gone. That won't happen. That's just a one of a billion possibility. You want to be that one? You see, the truth is, the only way Americans who have these needs that they want fulfilled right now can have them is with a person like Donald Trump. See, because you go through any other process, it takes time, years, because we have a process. And there's nothing right now that's that pressing where you need to call out the National Guard. Well, no, federal troops. There's no place here that you need to put 10% or 20% tariffs on things coming in from China. Maybe you should use that money, the friends that you gave your tax cuts to that were going to expand their business, hire more people, which was the promise, instead spend it on themselves. Maybe you should say, guess what? You're going to pay your fair share of taxes now. Grow a pair, which they can't because the Billionaires Club is exclusive. It's a club that you and me ain't in. Someone got mad at me for talking about billionaires. What, you got something going with a billionaire? Do you want them to drop their drawers so you can kiss their butts? Is that what you need? Is that what you want? Do you want to powder it for them? You want to help them? You want to, as I said before, we'll take up a collection here at the Thompson Analysis, and you can help you pay for their taxes. So if you want to help pay a billionaire's share of taxes, do it, and we'll help you by taking up a collection so you can pay Warren Buffett's taxes or Elon Musk's taxes. The last thing I want to talk about today is they want to go and basically get rid of every federal agency they can. Listen, I was for this once. There's a lot of things that can be cleaned up in the federal government. No doubt about it. And it's a big task. But what that takes is hiring right people, having the right bosses, having the right things in place for people to succeed, getting rid of the people who aren't succeeding, who can't fulfill their job roles. Yeah, that might be a lot of people, but Mr. Musk and his billionaire buddies want to get rid of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of federal employees. 400,000 to start, I think. Where are these people going to go? See, here's the other problem. We rather just tear it all down. We're going to tear it down. Well, maybe you should say, that's what we do in buildings. Beautiful buildings. Let's tear it down. We're going to build an ugly mall made out of concrete block. Let's do that. Let's tear it down. Cut all the trees down. We don't need them. We'll build something. Well, instead of us going in and finding ways to use what we have, use the people who we have, we just want to tear it all down. Because it seems good. We're going to save billions of dollars. Well, yeah, but you're also going to lay off 250,000 people, 500,000 people, 1,000,000 people. Who knows at the end? Plus the agencies that are there. Maybe you may need some of those agencies. Let me find that one here. It's everywhere. I got stuff everywhere. Oh, well. Let me tell you this much. They're going to get rid of the agencies not because they need to cut them, but because they're watchdogs, because they have a purpose. You see, Donald Trump and his group, they want to go wild on the environment. They want to have their way, raping this country of every dollar that it can get out of the ground, while we pay the consequences later. It's like in Appalachia. The people came in and they paid them so much money to mine coal. And what they ended up doing was tearing the mountain down at the top. It still smolders, and children have to wear masks in their homes in the mountains because of what was left by these rapists that came in and took everything and just left the environment as it is. That's the legacy that you're going to find of Donald Trump and a lack of environmental protection. And that can go for the Department of Education and go for a lot of these places, things he wants to get rid of. He doesn't want oversight on him. He doesn't want anybody to tell him what he can and can't do. He just is going to do it by edict. Well, that's all the time I have tonight. I guess I do have more time, but I'm losing my voice, losing my paperwork. I got stuff everywhere here. Listen, I'm not here to be the mean guy. I'm not here to try to squeeze you. I'm here trying to give you something to think about. I'm here to open up your mind and realize that we all have been duped by the political system for decades. It just seems like this time around, a lot more people got duped. And what's interesting, there's now more and more people, and a growing number across the nation, that have just came out and said that they wish they hadn't voted for who they did, which was Donald Trump. One of the largest numbers ever recorded. Why? Because they started reading proposals. They started listening to what he wants to do. They watched the butchery that is the cabinet selections that he's put together that scares the bejeebies out of me. People are starting to have that synapsing going on in their brain going, wait a minute, and the light bulb goes off on top of their head going, wait a minute. I got fooled. Remember, the devil, he plays a mean game. He's an angel of light, can appear as an angel of light, can appear to give you what exactly you think you wanted. Sounds good. It was good. You meant well. We needed it. We need to do this. Oh, yeah, okay. But in the end, will you lose the high ground? Will you lose your humanity? I hate to say that a lot of people already have, from the hatred that I've seen that has spread across this nation. God bless you. The live stream again on Thursday. I'm going to have another video tomorrow released. That live stream on Thursday is at 7 p.m., just like this one. Hopefully I'm more prepared voice-wise. Listen, like, subscribe, and share. We need you. We need your help to grow the channel, to reach more people. And a lot of people that I know really aren't, in a situation where they know how to even share some of this stuff because they don't have a lot of people to share it with that maybe have views that they have. So if you can just go and talk to people and let them know that, hey, if you need information, the Thompson analysis is the place to go. So outside of that, God bless you. Have a great day tomorrow. And I'll see you next time right here on the Thompson analysis.